This is Geek Gab, the geekariffic gabfest with your hosts, Daddy Warpig, Dorrinal, and Remy Punks. We are back. That's right. Sunday, January 11th, 2015. The geekariffic gabfest coming, as always, broadcasting live from a secret bunker deep underneath the House of Geekery. I'm your host, Daddy Warpig. You can catch me online, daddywarpig.com, daddywarpig.com, or you can follow me on Twitter. Actually, you can follow all three of us on Twitter. The addresses are in the description right below the video. Welcome, welcome. And we have, as always, well, actually, let me be perfectly honest. Right now, I only have one of my co-hosts on the line because we're guessing Remy had a last-minute mom emergency. So while I pause to take a quick sip of water, I will allow Dorrinal to say hi to everybody.
Hi to everybody. It's good to be here. How's everybody doing? How's your new year? Hope everything's going great for y'all.
Is it still the new year? Oh, I'm so tired of years passing. I am getting older and older. You know, when I look in the mirror now, I have noticeable gray hairs. It's really disconcerting to me, I will say.
I mean, we all go through a phase where we're like, that can't possibly happen to me. This isn't happening.
Oh man, I'm trying to keep track of everything going on right now. So, I know what I did yesterday, and anybody who follows my Twitter account knows what I did yesterday. I spent all day long at the movies because I had the free time, I had the money. Why the hell not? But you did something even more radical from a geek standpoint, even more radical than watching 3 movies in one day. You sat down and watched the football.
I watched sports ball. They were sportsing so hard on my television that it entertained me all day.
And your specific team, the sports team that you follow, won big yesterday.
So that was my wife and I. We follow the Seattle Seahawks. They won big yesterday. My personal team played this morning. So happy to see they had the morning game, so as not to conflict with the best gab of the week. We had a great victory today against the Dallas Cowboys. The Green Bay Packers is my team. Yeah, anybody following playoff football right now at all, there's been some amazing games to watch and really high-level play and some really competitive games, especially the one this morning. In fact, if you have any friends on Facebook at all, there's probably lots of wailing and gnashing of teeth about some interesting rules and calls and referee decisions.
Did I tell you I actually went out and picked a team myself that I am now the fan of because I decided it was time for me to become more involved in the sports.
It happens every time in a young man's life. There comes a moment where he gains gray hairs and decides on a football team to follow. So what'd you choose? The
Oakland Raiders.
Wow, that's you're rooting for the underdogs there.
I hear. See, there's 2 things about the Oakland. Well, no, there's 3 things about the Oakland Raiders I like. I like the color scheme, black and silver and white. The stark, darkness of the color scheme appeals to me. I like the fact that their fan base seems to be primarily composed of either pre- or post-prison thugs, and that may be due to where they're located. And I also like the fact that being an Oakland Raiders fan lets me wear stuff that looks like stuff that comes from Grand Theft Auto 5 without getting laughed at for it by real people. all of that stuff combined together, I was going to go with the Redskins because apparently all of the people on Tumblr, if you actually use the word Redskins, scream in horror and collapse and faint for when people use the word Redskins. And so I won't lie, that was like a big plus to me. The fact that I could say Redskins several times in a row and piss off everybody at CNN and piss off everybody at ESPN and piss off everybody at Sports Illustrated and piss off a whole bunch of people I just wouldn't mind pissing off anyway, just as a general hobby. You know, if I were to take up a hobby involved with sports, one that also let me make all these other people mad at the same time, that's just really efficient use of my time. It makes me happy. But I decided that despite the appeal of just being able to offend people by using a term that has been used for decades, that I really, really, really would rather go with the Oakland Raiders because of all the reasons I gave earlier. And does that make me a bad person that I'm close to picking a sports team based on how offensive idiots find their...
It's as good a criteria as anything else, and I absolutely love it. If you're just gonna go with a team blindly or on basic criteria, that's the way to go. Piss off as many people as possible.
The only thing more geeky that I could have gone with to pick a sports team would have been to all of the names of NFL teams on a big chart numbered 1 to 20 and roll a dice. And
why don't you do that every season? Just use a random number generator, use a dice, roll that d20, and see if you get. And what you do is you rank the table according to their records. So whoever won the Super Bowl would be 20, so that if you roll a natural 20, you get the best team from last year as your team for that year.
I see. How many NFL teams are there right now anyway?
There should be,
no,
what is it, 32. 32 teams. So they've got
2 teams. Okay.
Yeah, they've got two conferences of 4 divisions each with 4 teams in it.
Okay, so that's what you did yesterday. I went and saw movies yesterday. I went and saw 3 movies yesterday, and they're all, well, no, 2 of them are old. One of them is brand new. I saw Taken 3, I saw Mockingjay, and I saw The Hobbit. And I just want to say this about The Hobbit. When you see pictures of models, you can tell when they start to get a little bit older, because they stop using real lighting and they start going for like this soft, diffuse glow lighting. That means that they have heavily photoshopped the picture to take away all of the wrinkles and stuff. And once you start seeing it, you begin to notice it everywhere where they photoshopped things to take away wrinkles and stuff. And you're going to ask, what the hell does that have to do with The Hobbit? It's because virtually the entire Hobbit takes place in that same photographic universe where everything has that soft, diffuse glow, where there are no sharp edges to things because they've all been photoshopped away. And it just, during the scene in Lake Town, literally 80 years old. And so I'm going to spoil it. If you don't know how The Hobbit ends anyway, bad on you. That's your fault. You should have read the book already. I'm going to spoil it. You're just going to have to get used to it. You're just going to have to accept it. During the part in Lake Town where the dragon is flaming the city and all of that, they've got the people loading into boats and going away, it began to get aggravating because every single person in the town looked like they were a Playboy model with, oh my God, and it just irritated me. I it made me wonder if there was something about The Hobbit about this Lord of the Rings series getting now 11, 12 years, no, 14. It's 14 years old now. I mean, maybe that's the new standard in movies. Once a movie series reaches 14 years, brushing everything so it doesn't have any wrinkles.
So
the CGI got into my nerves.
I'll say, I think you get. It's sad because he did such a good job with those first Lord of the Ring movies that when you see a bunch of scenes that look like you're just watching a shitty video game, or a good video game, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I love video games, but I don't love watching movies that look like video games. And I think a lot of people feel the same way, and especially after the second Hobbit, I haven't even seen this new one. I just refuse to see it just because there's a couple of those fights that just look like video game levels. I don't know. And it has to do with all that photoshopping and the direction and everything.
They do. All the fights in front of the mountain, the fight scenes in front of the Lonely Mountain, it's called the Battle of the Five Armies because, and hold on to your sting, they have 5 armies that come together and do battle. So that's what happens in the movie. That's called the Battle of the Five Armies. They have 5 armies that come to do battle.
Hold on, how many armies are there?
But those, at least 6 when I was doing my own count in the book, but some of them might not actually count as entire armies. So I'm not sure. Humans, dwarves, elves, that's 3 armies, and then fighting them were orcs and wargs. That was the other 2, but the wargs didn't really show up in the movies that much, so I don't know what they're counting. Anyways, yeah, they looked like video games, video game armies. Or looked like armies from video games. Man, I tell you what it looked like. If you've ever seen, see, this is the thing, ever seen Gears of War 3, or even Gears of War 2, when they first introduced their mass numbers of their mooks, where you could get in big vehicles and chase along and shoot them with missiles and guns and stuff, that was awesome. But a movie that looks like it came straight from Gears of War is not so much with the awesome.
Yeah, it's a totally different.
I hear.
It's a totally different feel, I think, when you have when you're not sort of. I hesitate to use the word immersion because I think it's not used correctly, or it's overused a bit in the video game industry. But I think since you're not immersed in actually playing the game and you're not experiencing this adventure of the character, that you're just sort of watching it on the screen, I think you prefer it to look a little more, a little more like it's part of the story and a little less some guy's great Photoshop project.
So here's the fun stuff. I've got CenturyLink. Apparently I'm choppy. Apparently the audio from my end is choppy. It's because my internet right now is running at 1,000 millisecond ping. Or latency of 1,000 milliseconds. I have 1 full second of latency. And that's just awesome. That's just the worst internet connection in the world. So that's what my audio problems are, folks. It's nothing I can. It's my internet connection. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's all them cheeseburgers and French fries and milkshakes. It's all clogging your tubes, man.
See, this is the thing. This is the thing that really ticks me off about CenturyLink. That's what my internet provider is. CenturyLink. I go through a long checklist of steps before I start the show to turn off anything accessing the internet so my internet can be clean and as efficient as I can make it. And even so, at times like this, there is nothing I can do. I have turned off everything that connects to the internet other than this show, and there's nothing I can do about it. It is frustrating to me that we're spending this much money a month to get an internet that just doesn't work. I mean, I have a LTE network, so it's not wireless. It's not Wi-Fi. It's LTE, and that is faster than my internet. It's frustrating. I will not lie. It's frustrating. It makes me want to move to a large city with good internet, because living out in the sticks is garbage.
And
it also makes you want to start asking questions to make you talk.
and don't forget, in big cities like Seattle, the telecom companies are fighting hard to make sure that people don't get good service. You know, turning broadband into a public utility apparently is a big no-no. It's going to get worse before it gets better, I'm afraid. You know, to bring sunshine and roses here to our chat. It's too bad you're so choppy right now. I'm really interested to know how you felt about some of those new movies. And Taken 3, I think, is kind of a throwaway. I absolutely loved Taken, and then I didn't watch any of the new Liam Neeson action hero. How old is he? 60? I love it. But the Taken on a Plane was actually really good, so I was hoping that maybe we'd get something pretty good out of that movie. So what did you think?
Taken, I enjoyed it. Apparently, a lot of other people didn't. It's not an action movie anymore. I needed to go the thriller route. So there are a couple of action scenes, but only a couple. Most of it is mystery, thriller, things like that, which was fine. It worked really, really well. This Taken 3 is set in L.A., and it's set all over L.A. So if you've played Grand Theft Auto 5 for any length of time, you're going to get this feeling of deja vu. Being a movie taking place all over San Andreas. They have a scene at the Santa Monica Airport, which is the airport that Trevor takes over in early on in Grand Theft Auto 5. It's driving along the same runway that you have a big shootout with the Lost Biker Gang. They have a scene where he's driving past over the LA River, which is that big concrete open sewer that you have the chase in Terminator 2. And a lot of scenes where they're flying around buildings downtown, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the FIB building, that's the IAA building, that's the bank we break into. So yeah, that's what Taken 3 was. Big scene on the Santa Monica Pier, which shows up in Grand Theft Auto 5 as the Del Piero Pier. It's a big feeling of deja vu watching all this stuff go down. So
I've been to the Santa Monica Pier a couple of times. They've got a really good Mexican restaurant, like literally at the end of the pier. I think if anybody's visiting the area, the LA area, go check it out. And don't stab or kill any hookers while you're there, like you might on Grand Theft Auto. I just want to make that clear.
Yes, because video games make you do things in real life.
Yeah, I mean, I was at a mall that had sort of an installation on that looked like it was like a bunch of blocks that you could climb up and down, and they were arranged in sort of a pyramid shape, and it triggered a Qbert flashback, and before you know it, I was just hopping up and down and swearing. I just couldn't stop.
Oh, you know what's silliest about that? We complain because they make, movies based on like Connect Four and Battleship and stuff. They really are making a Connect Four movie, or at least that got optioned. I'm not lying. I wish I was. I don't even know the hell that's going to be about.
I think
I'm just imagining it's a.
They're just going to try to sneak in that line from the commercial. Sneaky move, sis.
I'm imagining like a remake of Over the Top, that old Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling movie, which was basically a remake of The Karate Kid, only with arm wrestling instead of karate. So it's this like steady downward progression. There's the original Karate Kid with karate. There is Over the Top with arm wrestling, and then there's going to be Connect Four with the World Championship of Connect Four. And it's just going to be terrible. That's the only thing I can imagine you'd do with that. That wasn't like an alien invasion with Liam Neeson, because I think he was in the Battleship movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that movie that I did not... Wait, there were aliens in that?
Yeah, apparently, yes. Oh, they blew stuff up. It was blue. I thought for a minute I was watching the Transformers again, but no, it was actually Battleship. Or what was that other blue one? All the aliens are blue now. All the stuff they shoot is blue. All the stuff they blow up is blue. Cowboys and Aliens had blue stuff. All of them are blue. All of a sudden, to rip off Independence Day. Oh yeah, that's another thing that bothered me about The Hobbit. If you notice, and I may have mentioned this already, everything is blue and orange now. You have heavy blue colors and heavy orange colors. And okay, let's get geeky for a second. The reason why that is because when you have something that's blue, human skin pops really well against it. So the characters tend to stand out more against bluish backgrounds. And so if you look at like the Battlefield 3 covered art, or a lot of cover posters for movies, or the color scheme for movies, they're all orange and blue. And that is a common theme that has begun running through movies and posters during the last... And what really bugged the shit out of me in the Five Armies is they do that all the time to such an extent that it becomes bothersome, that you notice it. And again, this is especially in the scenes set in Lake Town. They have this it's dark night, and so everything is blue. They're against the water, so that is blue. And then they have bright orange burning fire, and the people's faces are computer enhanced, so they're orange. For Battlefield 3. And it is, I think, something that's going to mark this era, particularly creatively bankrupt era in cinema, is this samey color scheme all over the place. And if you watch the original trilogy, the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, not The Hobbit, that wasn't anywhere. That just wasn't the case.
I think they went for more of a green and brown palette anyway.
Yeah, and it worked. I mean, it gave you the feel of that organic sort of fantasy, medieval swords and arrows, and that earthy palette reminded you subconsciously of living in a more primitive time. Because, again, let me vent geeky, that's what the Middle Earth itself was supposed to be, is a mythology for a culture that had lost all of its mythos. J.R.R. Tolkien was literally trying to create a mythology, a past, a mythical past, a noble past that people could sort of look up to emotionally, not rationally. And the Earth color schemes harken back to that being more primitive and therefore the past. They reinforced the purpose and the themes that underlie all of Middle-earth. Whereas it seems to me the purpose and the themes that underlie The Hobbit was just to make as many movies as possible to make sure that the companies who were making the movies made as much money as possible. And something in me suspects that probably lay behind a lot of the bad decisions. It irritates me.
Yes, it does.
Sorry, I was done. I was abruptly got, because the only thing I could go to after that was to actually start swearing, and I thought, that's probably going to be less productive a content, less productive for the show, is for me just to break down and start swearing at the people.
And this is a family show anyway. Remember, kids, to drink your milk, brush your teeth, and don't kill hookers on Santa Monica Pier.
Or anywhere else.
Yeah.
We're not trying to endorse hooker killing in general is bad, okay? That's we will want to make that clear on Geek Gab in case there was some gray area, because I do play Grand Theft Auto. In case there's gray area that came up in your mind about that, we are anti-hooker killing all the way. No matter what circumstances or the physical location or the seeming justification, we are anti-hooker killing, and generally, in fact, if you want to take it further than that, we're just generally anti-murder pretty much all the time. In fact, I shouldn't even necessarily qualify that. We're just anti-murder, okay? So don't murder. That's what we're saying. I mean, if I need to reinforce it, I will create the anti-murder ranger and put them up on Twitter so that every day or so they tweet out the message, don't murder. I will go to that extent. I will go to that length to reinforce the don't murder message, that although it's not a primary focus of the show, we kind of just sort of assume that murder is one of those things that we don't want to encourage in America's youth, or even middle-aged and old people. So if you're thinking about committing a murder, or if you're actually in the process of committing a murder, stop, go someplace else, and stop the murdering. Just don't do it. That's our public service announcement, okay? Don't do the murders. That's what I would like to. That's my bit of public service for today. Don't murder. That's I think that's a positive message. Is what we can take away from this. If you took anything away from this show, a renewed commitment to not murdering people, that would be one of the good things. I would tend to think.
You're a paragon of
especially
virtue,
on Santa
Daddy
Monica
Warpig.
Pier.
Go ahead.
Go, please.
Well, I was gonna.
I didn't have anything.
I was gonna change slightly. Speaking of movies, John Apocalypse in the crowd asks about the Ant-Man trailer, which I believe you posted to your blog. What did you? What was that about? What did you think of that?
I was surprised that Paul Rudd looked like a badass. That really shocked me, because Paul Rudd, my most vivid memories of him are as Phoebe's geeky husband / fiance from Friends, and so he seems like an unlikely action movie hero. He's just that kind of. He looks like a wimp. Okay, that's what he's always looked like, a wimp, but not a bad wimp, not a make you want to punch him in the face wimp. Like Justin Bieber, he's that kind of wimp that makes you want to push him down and kick him in the face or kick his ribs or something. I'm not saying you should do that.
But the difference is that, Justin Bieber gives off that impression of being a snot-nosed brat who, because of all his success and everything, hasn't received the beatings that most snot-nosed brats get in order to learn anything. Like, we all took our licks when we were young geeks, and he just looks like he deserves it.
He does. He something about the way, maybe it's that he gives off this era of smug superiority, like he thinks he's better than other people because he can get away with anything, because he's got the money to get away with anything. I mean, he can trash a hotel room. He can do tens of thousands of dollars in damage. He can do pretty much whatever he wants, so there's no consequences that he cares about, because that's not even real money to him. And so he's got that kind of smug superiority that good people tend not to get, even if they're in positions of money or power. But that's what he gives off. Whenever I see him, he's got that kind of sneer that says, "I think I'm better than you," and he always has. He always has had that sneer, because before he was anybody, when he was a nobody, I saw him the very first time and I wanted to punch him.
It's that punchable face, but Paul Rudd doesn't give that off. But I mean, to your point, he doesn't give off that badass movie star. But then again, Marvel took the fat, stupid guy from Parks and Rec and turned him into Star-Lord. So
I know, what the hell? Seriously, it's like Marvel is just trying to show off anymore. They're just trying to like taunt other movie studios who can't make good movies, because Marvel's made some clunkers. They made that Hulk movie that was terrible, but I tend to blame that on Edward Norton. They made Iron Man 2 and 3, which weren't that good, but Guardians of the Galaxy was awesome, and the fact that they turned or gave him a chance as an actor to show that he could play that kind of character was just awesome. They took Guardians of the Galaxy, which I thought would be garbage. I thought that was absolutely guaranteed to be garbage, and they made just an incredible movie out of it.
yeah, they really did. I think once they hit upon the formula of getting the right people in the right place, getting the right directors, getting the correct writers, I think they can just do whatever they want. I mean, okay. We've established before on the show that I'm not really a comic book person. They've permeated pop culture so much that I know a lot of this stuff, but I'm not really a comic book person, so I'm going to say some maybe controversial things. Comics are garbage, especially superhero comics. This is dumb shit. Marvel is making movies based on dumb shit, but they're making interesting, exciting, entertaining movies. They've hit upon something. That same thing that allowed this dumb shit to permeate our pop culture the way that it has. And it's cool to see. It's cool to see that they can grab the guy who was, Phoebe's boy toy on Friends and just... Yeah, he's Ant-Man now. This tool from Parks and Rec. Yeah, he's Star-Lord. After months and months of lifting or whatever he did to get ready for that role.
I think what Marvel did to make their movies good is something I think I've never actually seen anyone comment on this other than me, and I haven't commented on it in public. So here it goes. Marvel takes different genres of movies and they remake them as superhero movies. That's their secret. Guardians of the Galaxy is not a superhero movie, it's a space opera. It is Battlestar Galactica or Battle Beyond the Stars or Star Wars or whatever space opera you want to think of. That's what Guardians of the Galaxy was. It wasn't a superhero movie. It was a space opera movie that happened to have comic book superhero characters in it. The Winter Soldier movie isn't a superhero movie. It's a 1970s paranoid conspiracy thriller like 3 Days of the Condor. They even got the same actor to show up in their 1970s conspiracy thriller, Robert Redford. That's how loudly Marvel is telegraphing its moves and how loudly they're taunting people, and nobody is getting it. Because Sony and Fox, at least with their Fantastic Four and Spider-Man movies, have been trying to make superhero movies. Meanwhile, Marvel is off to the side doing its own thing. Here's the secret of Ant-Man. Ant-Man is a heist movie. It's about breaking into a place to steal something. It's like Ocean's 11 or any one of those other great heist movies. It just happens to have a superhero in it. So they look at a specific genre of movie and they do a different genre every single time. Captain America, the first Avenger, wasn't a superhero movie. It was a World War II movie. It was the Dirty Dozen. They just stuck a superhero in it. And that's where Marvel has been winning, is because they're going after tried and true formulas, making a good example of that genre, and then sticking their superheroes on top.
I hadn't really looked at it that way. I think you make a really good point about the style of movie that they're doing. Like they take the Avengers, ensemble, superhero movie and get the ensemble superhero script guy to do it. And Joss Whedon, love him or hate him, overrated or think he's great. He's a good writer, he's a good director, and he's perfect for that kind of movie. But you don't hire him to make all the Marvel movies. It depends on what kind of movie you're targeting.
Right. Yeah. And so it makes me wonder what wonder what kind of genres they're going to go to. But that's how they keep them interesting. That's how they keep you coming back. That's how they keep them from devolving into feeling same. Is they keep on sticking. Like Avengers 2 wasn't a superhero movie. It was an alien invasion movie. It was Independence Day or Battle Los Angeles or one of these other alien invasion movies that just happen to have the superhero characters in it. And it makes me wonder what they're going to be going to next as they broaden out, because they've got a lot of room for different things. Like Doctor Strange obviously brings in the fantasy side of the Marvel Universe, and I'm wondering, it makes me wonder what they're going to hit up with next to use as raw material to put that veneer of superhero stuff over the top.
And that sort of reminds me of something that's said a lot about a lot of successful game makers, game developers, and writers, and basically creators. Is that it's not necessarily about the ideas; it's about the execution. And they're setting out to make this type of movie with this type of character and everything, and they're just doing it well. Like, fans of the comic know everything that's going on. Fans of these kinds of movies, sort of know what to expect, but the execution is there, and that's what the non-Marvel studios aren't getting.
Yeah, they are, and don't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just sticking superheroes on top of other kinds of movie genres and mixing them together would not be enough if they weren't actually doing the individual movies well. It wasn't just that The Winter Soldier was a 70s conspiracy movie, even though that added a bunch of interest to the movie. It stopped it from getting samey. Then they took that raw idea and went and did it well. Their clunkers stand out in retrospect because they just were notably not very well done movies. And I think I rant about those couple of movies every single time it comes up. But so I don't want to do it again. But yeah, it's not enough to have a good idea. It's not even enough to have a striking and original idea. You have to have a striking and original idea that you do well. You're absolutely right about that.
So we haven't talked much about. You saw one other movie, which it's another sequel that I just could not bring myself to see. So tell me about what you thought about Mockingjay.
Mockingjay. Okay, Jennifer Lawrence is a genius actress. I don't know how the hell. It's just talent. She was born with it, and she was, of course, as always, brilliant. I've gone back and watched the movies that she made before she became famous, and her performances in them, even in kind of mediocre movies, are just incredible. They're just outstanding. She does a great job as an actress. So if you like Jennifer Lawrence, if you're a Jennifer Lawrence fan, watch the movie because she'll be in it. If you like the other two movies and you want to finish out the series, go and see it because it's the third one. You need to watch it so you'll be ready to watch the fourth one. The movie is very, very choppy. It does not have a lot of connective tissue between different scenes, and it's kind of like watching a strobe light. It's like Flash, that's a scene, then a bunch of stuff happens that you don't really know what is going on and why, then Flash, there's another scene. I have read the books like once 3 or 4 years ago, and so I don't remember if this is close to the books or not. It wasn't as good as the other two. That's my conclusion.
Fair enough. I always thought, talking about Jennifer Lawrence, I think I think I think her performance is the only thing that got me to actually enjoy the movies. Actually, I liked the whole cast. I really did. But I came late to the party and I watched the first movie, and I hated the script. I'm not entirely sure how anybody actually could stand to read the books because I really didn't like what happened to the script. And I can expand on that in a second. But I really thought that the cast truly elevated the material. You say, I mean, that's a cliched phrase at this point. I mean, people say that a lot of movies, but I think in this case, people like Jennifer Lawrence and the late Philip Seymour Hoffman and Woody Harrelson and all those other guys, like they had people to come in and elevate the material. Going back, let's call it back to the Iron Man Marvel conversation. You know, Iron Man was a decent script elevated by Jeff Bridges and Robert Downey Jr. They made that movie. Same thing with the Hunger Games. By the time the second movie had finished, I felt that the awful story had sort of run its course and sort of ruined that for me. So that this third one comes around and I'm like, same thing with The Hobbit. The second one burned up all that goodwill, and I was like, do I really want to sit through another one?
Stanley Tucci as Caesar, the announcer. Just, I mean, every scene with him in it is sparkles. It is better. It's just better for having him in that scene, for having him perform that role. He just is a genius in those scenes, and he's playing a character that could just very well be very cliched and very boring and very obnoxious. But that, it's exact. And I'm trying to say this because I wish I had the words to just describe how perfect a performance he gives to be this. He's obviously friendly. He's obviously charismatic. He's obviously drawing in the audience, and you can see why the character is that kind of person that an audience would really respond to in the real world. And yet at that same time, he gives the character just enough of that slightly too cheesy edge to make him creepy enough to be believable as the public face of a murdering dictatorship. And that is a hard pitch to hit as an actor, is to layer in all of those different elements and sell it to the audience in a subtle and understated and naturalistic way. I just think that is brilliant, the way he did that. And you're talking about them elevating the material. I think that is a perfect example where he takes what could be just a throwaway character and turns it into a performance that is masterful. So yeah, I just think that their leads in that, and Effie, the crazy fashion lady, turns in a pitch perfect performance, and you get to see more depth of from her in the second one. Elizabeth Banks.
Elizabeth Banks, yeah, but she's great too.
yeah, it is. And I think this is the thing. This is the thing that geeks can celebrate now. Geek movies are the successful movies by and large because they're allowed to be heroic. They're allowed to be fun. They're free from all the burden of the boring, depressing, odious sort of requirements that straight dramas have to accept. And so if you're an actor, all the top Hollywood actors are clamoring to get into even bit parts for Marvel movies and for Mockingjay and for movies like it because they actually get given things that can be meaty roles in the middle of a bunch of silly stuff. And it's very, very hard to be given meaty roles in straight dramas because you're not allowed to have any fun in most of these movies. And so the movies turn into these dreary, fun-killing, soul-killing, depressing, didactic, preachy crap. And that's the triumph of the geek now, is that our movies are the ones audiences love because they're allowed to be fun, and audiences can go to them and have fun while at the same time having those dramatic moments that elevate the material over schlock. Because there's geeky stuff, and a lot of people assume that everything geeky, comic books, science fiction, fantasy, now even action movies, they're called genre flicks. That's what they call them, genre flicks. And that's supposed to have this taint of sneering. It's not real. It's a genre flick. Horror, obviously, same thing, fantasy, genre flicks. But
Yeah, like you can't have a legitimately great horror movie that that transcends that genre label. Like, oh, I don't know, Alien.
oh, I mean, yeah. Even some movies that you would think are schlock, because there's genre movies, there's geek movies, and then there's schlock. And anything can be schlock. You can have schlocky drama, you can have schlocky war movie, you can have a schlock can be anything, but the taint is that geek is always schlock, and that is just not true. I'm gonna pitch for one of my all-time favorite jarring horror movies that is almost as old as I am, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And there is a lot of schlock in that movie, but there is a lot in that movie that is not schlock. And Alien, perfect example. Science fiction and horror, and it's a chilling and harrowing experience that I don't think mainstream Hollywood used to value, but now because the audiences are valuing it so much because they're getting sick of prestige stuff that just does nothing but sneer at them, they're realizing that if you go see a geek movie, you can actually get something good that isn't going to be preachy and condescending and hateful and whatever.
I think they've got a word for that. Oscar bait.
Oscar bait, yes. Most Oscar bait is shit. Most of it. Not all of it. Most of it.
I remember the worst / best Oscar bait I think I've ever seen was American Beauty. When I first saw it, I saw it for a couple of dollars at my school at college, and I was like, I think that kind of was a good movie, but why? What are they doing here? Some of this didn't make sense. And then the more you think about that movie, the more you're like, that was just a pile of crap. What were they doing?
Well, and you bring that up, which makes me think of the main actor, who is a brilliant actor. But that makes me think of his recent series that, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot the name of it.
House of Cards.
House of Cards.
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey. Sorry, thank you. And that makes me think of television. That's why so many actors are now running for television, is because you can get in on the ground floor of something that is phenomenally well done, that has meaty roles, and that is audiences go and watch, and that will make your career if takes off, like Breaking Bad and House of Cards, which is Netflix only. It's not even television, it's just streaming. And several of these, I mean, started with The Shield and The Sopranos, and HBO, once they got over the we can show boobies and swear titillation phase in the 80s, they started making some really good stuff. And so you look at all this, and it is incredible the amount of good stuff that's being made outside of movies, in venues other than movies, and in genres that the mainstream movies have traditionally kind of sneered at. And it's really awesome. It makes you want to stand up and cheer that they get really good stuff out there. Kevin Spacey is such an incredible actor.
I'm glad you brought up TV, because you know what? Did you know that one of the best dramas on television right now, and I understand this might be subjective, is just a weekly CBS show that started off as a procedural?
Person of Interest.
Person of Interest is. Have you caught up? I know that you didn't. Don't think you've watched it from the beginning. Have you caught up on that?
I've watched it from the beginning. I haven't seen anything from this season. I've seen up to the season closer from last year.
Okay, well then I will let you take over. I want to know how you thought about what happened from the first episode until the end of last season.
I'll be perfectly honest. I watched the first season of Person of Interest because a lot of people whose opinions I value, or at least I trust, told me how good it was. I watched the whole first season. At the end of it, I'm like, why the hell did I watch that? I mean, it was interesting. It had good actors in it. It was a well-done procedure, but it wasn't anything compelling. And so I walked away from it, and I saw another review that said how awesome it was, and so I'm like, okay, fine. I'll go back and watch the second season. And once you hit that second season, at least for me, it just gets better and better and better, because all of the little pieces that are implicit in the first season come together and magnify each other and make for a show that is far, far better than you could ever imagine. Imagine just seeing on regular network television. I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is on CBS.
It's great. It's like season 1, or I should say 3/4 of season 1 was a backdoor pilot for what the show actually became.
Yeah.
That's great. And I wanna explain the timeline for folks who are listening who may not be familiar with this show. This is what happened. It was billed as a case of the week show where there is a super smart guy who created a video computer surveillance system that will attempt to predict terrorist behavior. This is a post 9/11 paranoia here. Only in this world, the paranoia is right. This system will watch people and determine who may be in danger. And what it does is it feeds the government the names, or I should say the numbers of people who are terrorist threats. And anybody who's not a terrorist threat just gets discarded. Well, this smart guy teams up with Jim Caviezel. So we're already starting off with an ex-CIA hitman played by Jim Caviezel. So it's Jesus the Assassin. And they get those discarded numbers, people who are in danger but who aren't terrorist threats. So the government doesn't care. And so it sounds like it's just going to be a number of the week. We save, this person who might be the victim, or who might become a victim of a crime, or who might perpetrate the crime. That's part of the fun. And that's how it started. It started off as this, here's these two guys, the smart guy gets the number, let's find out, let's find this person, let's find out who they are, whether they're a criminal or a victim, and save them or stop them, either way. And it happens like this for, half the first season, and it's okay. The action scenes are pretty good, the characters are kind of fun, but and then halfway, it's sort of the same. You're like, oh, this is another CBS procedural. And a lot of people did what you did. They just sort of tuned out. Halfway through the first season, they introduced slightly more serialized elements with there's massive corruption in the New York police force, and there's a gangster named Elias, played by I don't remember his name. Really great actor, and so they sort of fill out the rest of the season with this semi-serialized story about the crime and the corruption and everything. And so by the end of the first season, you kind of have a satisfying villain, and some interesting things happen, and the characters are really good. How does the show get great? And this is what Daddy Warpig was just talking about. In season 2, the show switches gears from Elias and the crime, and it becomes about the machine that is gathering all this data, all this surveillance data from people in around the world, and identifying terrorist suspects. This is an artificial intelligence, and so the show goes from episodic, number of the week sort of save the day procedural into subversive cyberpunk thriller and this is before Snowden and NSA leaks and everything. This is like this show is predicting just how fucked up the federal government has been. Right? They couldn't believe how ahead of the time they were. So it switches gears into about the machine and the people who are trying to get access to the machine so that they can, because the bad guys, if they have control of all this information, they can do terrible things, that attempting to rule the world and everything. So it makes this transition, and I don't think I'm doing it justice, but it just turns from this. It's like they sneaked CBS. You can imagine the guys at CBS like, oh yeah, we want another NCIS, right? And so they get this show that's it turns into something else, and they just keep rolling with it, and it just gets better and better.
The actor's name that plays Elias is Enrico Colantoni, which is why you don't remember, but he was in Galaxy Quest, he was in Just Shoot Me, he was in Veronica Mars, and so you've seen him before on television. Even if you don't remember, he was Veronica Mars's dad. Okay, the PI who plays Veronica Mars's dad. He was the photographer in Just Shoot Me who got to sleep with all the hot models, and he was the leader of the aliens in Galaxy Quest. So you've seen him, even if you don't know exactly who he is. And as a character actor, he is a great character actor. So yeah, while you were talking, I was looking things up on IMDb.
It's fantastic, and for all you Whedon or Buffy fans are out there, Amy Acker has been a regular on the cast since season 2. She's great fun, of course. She's a wonderful actress, and it's basically just everything that happens in the recent season and the previous. It's just everything's amazing. She plays a psychopath serial killer, Amy Acker. Yeah, she starts off the show as a villain. She's actually a gun for hire, but she's also completely insane, and I won't spoil too much because the development of her character is pretty incredible, and for someone who becomes a member of the team and a member of the regular cast, that sort of thing could be unbelievable, but all the writing's done really well, and her character arc is really interesting. Plus, it's Winifred with 2 pistols gunning down bad guys. How do you go wrong, right? Okay, so we are almost to the close of the show. Apologies for the audio problem. It's the internet connection here. Nothing I can do about it. So let's see. Person of Interest, awesome. Give it a watch if you haven't seen it. Same with Breaking Bad and House of Cards. Mockingjay was all right. It was kind of mediocre. If you've watched the first 2 and you plan on watching the 4th, you should see it. If not, wait till it comes out on video, or you can Netflix it whenever. Battle of the Five Armies, I just didn't like. It was dreary, and the computer CGI drove me nuts in many, many places. Taken was a great movie. If you've liked the Taken series, it was more of a thriller than an action movie, and I think John Wick has spoiled me for action movie scenes because I expect every action movie scene to be like John Wick now, and this one wasn't. Was there anything else? Oh yeah, the Marvel movies are great. Marvel movies are great, yeah.
Ant-Man trailer looks awesome. It's a heist movie, and Paul Rudd actually looks like he can pull off the action hero badass thing, so that was surprising and looks good. That's all. That's what I think we talked about. GTA 5, don't kill hookers in real life. That too. So let's close with that. Don't kill hookers in real life. Anything else, Dorrinal?
Yeah, don't kill hookers in real life.
Thanks for tuning in to the Geek Gab, folks. We're sorry that Remy Punks was not here. Apparently there was a last-minute emergency. But every Sunday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can listen to typically the three of us doing our thing here at the geekariffic gabfest. You can check out me, your host, daddywarpig.com, daddywarpig.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at daddy_warpig, at daddy_warpig. Dorrinal and Daddy Warpig signing out. We will be back.